LeBron James wants to bring back physicality to the NBA season. What? What a joke, right? This guy keeps talking about things in this era almost like he's a part of this era. Like, it's crazy, right? We better settle in. This guy might play until 2045. Where's Steph Curry? Where's Kevin Durant? They're not acting like they are part of this era, folks. Even though you can say they're more a part of this era than LeBron James is. LeBron James came in 2003. Okay, he's not a part of this era. His prime was 2010. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So that's the biggest thing about it. You know, we'll talk about that. But, you know, I want to thank you guys for coming through, you know, on those videos and commenting. Make sure you share those videos. I think the video was, you know, basically how LeBron James in the media, well, LeBron James in the Clutch Sports that eventually turned into the media. LeBron James in Clutch Sports paid the media off to rewrite not only his history, but NBA history, right? You guys came through, saw those videos, liked them, commented on them, you know, were floored with the receipts, right? Because that's what they are. They're receipts. We can keep saying what we want out of our mouths and, you know, keeping LeBron James at the top of the so-called fake GOAT debate, but the receipts are right there from the media. This guy failed and failed and failed. This guy was a Robin, according to Stephen A. Smith, you know, of course, Skip Bayless and other guys. So, I don't know. A lot of times I would just put out those videos about the media back then in the 2000s and the 2010s, you know, kind of like separate clips or whatever like that. And when you start putting them together and find out, you know, it goes from the 2000s all the way to the 2010s. And basically, people like Stephen A. Smith is dissing LeBron James. You know, we know Skip Bayless, you know, has always put the pressure on LeBron James and held him to a standard. But, you know, even Rob Parker was back then, Chris Broussard was back then, and things like that. And they basically called this guy a failure when he was a failure. They were saying that Kobe was better than LeBron James and that Kobe needed to come teach LeBron James how to be a winner, how to be a killer, how to be clutch, how to all these things, folks. They even at one time wanted LeBron James and Kobe to even play together so Kobe could teach him how to be a leader, how to be clutch, how to be a winner, how to be a killer. These are the things that Stephen A. Smith was saying, that he would not take LeBron James also in a clutch. He would pick, you know, 5 guys over him all the time, but not LeBron James. So yeah, those we can say what we want. We can go ahead and go back in the GOAT debate all we want, but we had the receipts from the media back then showing that LeBron James never got on the level of Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant. He just never did. He just never did. And then when we rolled into 2020's, all of a sudden they basically try to rewrite history, right? LeBron James never made it to that point. And all of a sudden, even Skip Bayless even, you know, tucked his nuts between his legs and started taking those clutch checks. That's how bad it got. But that video, man, I guess I should put that out like once a day. I mean, goodness God. Of course, LeBron in the video, you know, again and again and again and again, tells us from his own mouth that Kobe Bryant is the best player in the NBA. I think some of it was in the early 2000s, the late 2000s, and I want to say the early 2010s, if I'm not mistaken. LeBron was saying Kobe was the best in the game because of his skills, his offense, his defense, his leadership. So basically, the media, we can say what we want about LeBron James lying. That's just what he has been lately, right? But it's the media that has to take accountability for it. You know, sometimes we can blame the child for the way the child acts, you know, in school or maybe out here in the streets and, you know, just out here in the world in general to a certain extent, right? But we got to look at the parents and see how the parents are more responsible than the kid is, right? And that's what LeBron James basically is. He's a little kid. He never grew up. He never grew up. He was put in a GOAT debate for no reason because they wanted a next to celebrate, right? They wanted a next they've always did that, from Kareem to Dr. J to Magic Johnson to Bird to, you know, Michael Jordan to, you know, Kobe, and, you know, they always had like a next to celebrate, and that's what they wanted from LeBron James, you know, going into the 2010s. But, you know, he failed. He kept failing, and, you know, it got so bad that he even said when he went to the Heat, he said this gives him his best opportunity to win. Build a super team. That's what he said out of his own mouth. Build a super team gives him his best opportunity to basically shut down the East, and then hopefully with that super team they can be a non-super team in the finals. So that was his best shot. That's how bad this guy was. His best shot was to basically cheat. So let's get into this. So he says that bringing back physicality, he wants that next season. Okay, like I said, who cares what you want? This is not your era. Second of all, why would you want physicality? A guy that's flopping all over the place for the last 10 years. You want physicality? Wow, this guy must be retiring. This is the one thing this guy doesn't like, is physicality. Second of all, when we talk about physicality, I agree with him that the NBA should bring back physicality. The only thing with that is, we saw in these playoffs, they supposedly brought back physicality, right? And the thing about it is, these guys, for one, they're not built for physicality, right? For two, why would you wait until the playoffs to bring back physicality? That gives, you know, a team an unfair advantage when these guys aren't used to physicality. So you're going to get some, I don't understand that. I don't understand. What's the meaning of that? I don't understand it. They've always let them play a little bit more physical in the playoffs, even in the 3-point contest, right? The 3-point contest era, they've even played physical in that era in the playoffs. But, you know, this thing right here, to where they're almost not calling a foul at all for physicality, is different. And if you want to bring back physicality to the regular season, now you got to bring back some more things, because what it looks like now is you can't have physicality in a 3-point contest era, right? If the game is a 3-point contest, how dumb does that look? You're playing physical basketball on 3-point shooters. Looks pretty dumb to me. And that's why a lot of guys, they really couldn't deal with it. And it's what we try to tell you guys back in the day, that the physicality in the defense would prevent you from shooting all these threes. So let's say if this dude got hot at 3-point land, maybe he hit 2. Well, it's time to get up on him and shut him down, right? Time to get up on him and shut him down, which means a dude is going to be all in your mug the entire time. You know, you think you're going to sit out there and shoot that 3. And then the shot's going to be pretty much worthless, because now you're not wide open, and you're shooting from way out there and you're not wide open. Okay? That's why a lot of these guys don't shoot the mid-range, because especially when they're not wide open in this era, because it's not an easy shot. So when you see these guys trying to shoot a 3-point shot in these playoffs with guys draped all on them, it's not that effective, right? It's not a high percentage shot, right? And you don't hear these words, right? High percentage. So even when LeBron James came into the league, even when LeBron James played basketball in high school, in middle school, whatever, all he heard was high percentage. High percentage. Get the most high percentage shot you can get, right? That's what the coach always said. No matter what coach it was that was coaching any team, get the most high percentage shot, right? So that meant from the paint to the mid-range to the 3-point line. So basically, the paint was the first option. The mid-range was the second. And the 3-pointer was, you know, it was always last. Always last. LeBron James knows that. Dunks and layups for this guy, the majority of his shots. Dunks and layups. Well, we won't say dunks and layups. That has to do with it. But, you know, even if he shoots a shot that's not a layup, the majority of his shots, they're right there by the basket. He knows that. And we can even say they changed the game and took out the physicality to where it has gotten now for LeBron James. We can really say that. So he could play longer. Also, if you want to bring back physicality, you got to bring back other things. Like I said, you got to bring back real referees, because these guys don't know how to officiate a game. This is why they have monitors in all these reviews, because they have no idea what the hell they're doing, right? They're like de facto referees. They're not real referees. So in a game where it's a 3-point contest in hot potato, any ref can coach this, right? In a game where you're allowed to travel and carry and nothing is called, any referee can call this. But when you have real standards of officiating, where you call travel, carry, palm, dribbling the ball up high, pass where it's supposed to go, offensive fouls, flopping, physical defense, things like this, players not cussing you out. When you have these type of things in a game, you now need real referees. And when I was growing up, we had real referees. They didn't need no instant replay, right? They didn't need none of that, because they were real referees. Am I saying they were perfect? No, nobody is perfect. No game is perfect. It's not like that. But 9 times out of 10, they got the call right, because that was their job. If they weren't on their job, remember a lot of times, you could go back and look at the play, not on the replay, but the people on the sidelines calling the game, the play-by-play, they go back and look at something to see if the ref was wrong. And this is why the ref, the majority of the time, wanted to be right, because they would look like fools later on, right? You want to do stuff at your job right? So you can get the job done, so you don't look like a fool, so you don't get in trouble, so you'll be one of the best at the jobs, so you'll do a quality job, right? So that's how the refs were back in the day. I put out that video where Rasheed Wallace, I think it was 98, 99, something like that. He basically stared the referee down, the ref teed him up and threw him out. And Steve Smith said, "Man, what's going on, man? Please, please." I don't know what game it was, but Steve Smith was pleading with the ref not to throw him out, something like that. I think it was Steve Jabby. I don't know who it was. I forget. And, he was just like, no, he's not going to stare me down and intimidate me. He ain't going to do that. And I'm sure he just didn't do it that one time. He probably, he probably did it a couple times. And he didn't even say nothing. But just Rasheed Wallace looking at the ref the way he was, basically was telling the ref, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. You're making bad calls, wrong calls, whatever, right? And the ref said, no, I'm not having that. This is my job. I don't know. You play basketball for a living, and I'm a referee for a living. How about that, son? You're not going to sit here and tell me what I'm overseeing is wrong. You're playing basketball, and I'm overseeing you guys play basketball. You're not going to sit there and make a fool out of me. And that's how the refs was back in the day. In the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, right? The 90s, the early 2000s. You couldn't show them up and make a fool out of them, because that was their job, folks. They held everybody to a standard. If Michael Jordan was called for carry, palm, travel, and a lot of times he was, sure, Michael Jordan might have thought, no, I did it because it's the heat of the moment. Maybe he thought he did it. Or maybe he just agreed with it. But a lot of times he just laughed or, made some crazy face and walked off. Because if he knew if they didn't call it on him consistently, they couldn't call it on Patrick Ewing or David Robinson or, Charles Barkley or John Stockton. He knew. And vice versa. If they called it on them guys, Charles Barkley, John Stockton, Karl Malone, they had to call it on Michael Jordan. That's just the way it was, folks. You're going to get cussed out and screamed at by the crowd if you're sitting there letting players carry and travel in all these things during the game. We were real students of the game. We weren't just guys that wanted to be entertained. Right? A lot of people play basketball, whether it was on the court, whether it was organized basketball. Traveling and carrying was not a part of the game. Also, high percentage shot was part of the game that we played. Like I said, for organized basketball or for fun. That's just the way it is. They have tried to change and finagle everything in the NBA in the LeBron James era. So again, if you're going to bring back physicality, I'm fine with that. But you also have to bring back real referees that know the game. Obviously, especially in the 2020s, these guys don't know basketball. I don't know who they are. They're imposters. They're not even college level referees that I knew back in the day. Even college referees didn't play around back in the day. We need to bring back real coaches. We got to bring back real coaches. These are not real coaches. Even some of these coaches that coached in the 210s, you can look at the look on their face. They're just there for a paycheck, folks. They don't know how to coach this trash that they're playing. They're frustrated. At the fact that, for one, they don't even know what the hell they're coaching. Two, they can't even coach these players. Three, they know they're only there for a paycheck. I mean, you got some coaches now that played in the 90s, in the 70s, still coaching out here. It's the most ridiculous thing you ever seen. It's the most insane thing you ever seen. It's insane. How these guys treat these players today is a far cry from how they were being treated when they played basketball. How their coach was talking to them, how to perform basketball, how to play basketball, how to, get the job done, what to do in practice. These things like that, folks. I mean, we might as well just have all foreign head coaches that we've never seen in the NBA, because that's what it looks like. It would be better having all foreign head coaches. I ain't talking about international, but I'm just talking about a whole bunch of no-name coaches that didn't play in the 90s, that didn't play in the 80s, that didn't play in the 70s, that didn't play in the 2000s. Because this game today in the 2020s is foreign to them. You can't coach a three-point contest, hot potato. What is it? What style of game is? What is this? So is four guys on the three-point line. It might be five sometimes. Four guys on the three-point line, and one guy is trying to bust contain. He's trying to get in there into the middle for a driving layup, right? And these aren't even the best defenders you ever seen, right? Because the defenders are just skinny three-point shooters. These aren't all-time great defenders. That's why you, on your starting five, especially, see, back in the day, you had to have your best defenders out there, per se, right? They had to be good to great to be on the floor. They have to be all-time great, but you usually have one or two, could be all-time great if you had a decent team. But for the most part, is you had to have your best defenders out there. You get rolled. So a lot of your superstars were two-way players. A lot of them was two-way players. Even if they wasn't two-way players, you'll say, well, how come he didn't make a defensive team? One of the star players, because when you look at the defensive team, you'll say, well, let me see who stopped them. And then when you see who stopped them from making a defensive team, you say, oh, okay, I see now. It's an all-time great on the defensive team, right? All-time great defender, right? And he might not be a two-way player, and sometimes he might, but he basically is an all-time great defender. Today, when you look on these defensive teams, they're not even all-time great defenders. They're not even two-way players. They're not even superstars. And then you have your superstars that never even make an all-NBA defensive team. So basically, what I'm trying to say is you have four guys defending, four guys at the three-point line. And those guys who are defending, especially the superstars, they're not great defenders. And most of them aren't even good defenders. So now they're trying to break, contain, drive to the basket. So if one of those guys, when he starts to drive, if a guy comes off his three-point shooter, a defender, now it's going to be a three-point guy open, and he's just going to kick it out to that three-point guy. So now another guy has to come off his defender to try to stop him from shooting or driving. Now you got to make a decision. Am I going to keep driving, or am I going to just kick it out to the other skinny three-point shooter? And again, folks, this is all you have all game. And these guys aren't three-point specialists. They just shoot basically the majority of their shots from three. It's either three or layup. So you have a game of hot potato all game. One-on-one, see if I can drive to the basket. If not, I'm going to hot potato it out to the skinny three-point shooter. This is the game that they have chosen to play, especially in the 2020s. Nobody knows why, where the hell it came from, and why it's here. But according to the fans in the ratings, they have disagreed with this trash and chosen not to watch it. They don't want to watch it. That's according to the ratings. We can say whatever we want about this and that, but the ratings spoke. The fans don't want to see this trash. So also, you need to bring back skilled players, not skilled players, well, that too. Well, positional players. You need to bring back positional players if you want to bring back physical defense, because when you have physical defense, now you can slow the game down. Now you can bring back post players and big men. You just dump it down in the damn post, turn around. You got a layup. Who's going to stop you? So you can bring back real centers who can have a post-up game, power forwards who have a post-up game. You can't play physical defense and run a gun. You can't have a three-point contest with physical defense. And we've seen this in the playoffs. It looks stupid. You're playing physical defense in a three-point contest. And you see these teams for the game, they done shot 19%, 20%, 31% again and again. So basically, you need to bring back real basketball players to the NBA. Real positional players who have positional skills. This is how the game was always played. This is how the game was always loved. This is how the game was always sold. This is how the game was, from its inception, taught. When you have positional basketball, not only was it more physical, but each player possessed a certain skill set at every position, whether it was, shooting guard, point guard, small forward, power forward, center. You had to have a certain skill at every position, right? That's why you'll see at certain positions, they'll have like steals titles. And that basically was the perimeter guys who had all the steal titles, the assist titles, basically all the perimeter guys. Block titles. Well, that's the inside guys, the paint guys. Rebound titles. Well, it was the paint guys mostly. Scoring titles. Well, it was mostly the guys in the paint back in the day, until Michael Jordan really changed that. So, and to me, you can say a lot of, after Michael Jordan, a lot of guys start winning the scoring title, but the game did change. Less physicality, and that's why. Because taking a perimeter shot back in the day was a tough shot with a dude draped all over you. And you had real defenders. Especially once we got out of when we got out of the 2000s, it started to be a joke when you saw perimeter guys winning scoring titles, because, the defense just started to basically go away. So, yeah, let me get up off of here, man. Again, LeBron James, he's on his Mind the Money podcast, and, he's just trying to make some money, man. For some reason, he didn't make enough money in the NBA. I always said, I don't believe these guys make this kind of money, but you got to believe this is nobody wants to call this out on their channel, but LeBron James. And most of these podcasts from these NBA players are nothing but deep fakes, folks. They're deep fakes. They're not there. If you know what a deep fake is, you'll laugh every time you see mine. I said this when I first seen this podcast. I was like, this is a deep fake. How does nobody on any channel know this stuff? How come they're not calling it out? Which I'm not trying to say you're going to go to jail or something wrong with it, but it's a deep fake. It's not even a real, podcast where people are there. It's just a script written and they AI deep fake it. So you guys tell me what you think.